Okay, guys, we are starting in 3-4 minutes as well, so. Might have turn on this to go. Hi guys, let me know if you can hear me online. Today's lesson is going to be the most complex one ever. It's going to be horrible and everything will go wrong. Probably it will take 3 hours, and after today's lesson, if you don't want to be a programmer anymore, that's fine. Burritos place next door is looking for people, okay? So you have opportunities, you know, don't worry about it too much, you know. If you can't do it, whatever. Let me just figure out the projector as well. Oh, it appeared. Sometimes it works, technology, sometimes it doesn't. Haha! Great picture. Okay, I'm almost ready. Okay, I can get rid of that. What? I am doing some very important things. Okay, so I'll switch to that scene, so you should see what others see, okay? This is my drawing, and I'm excellent at drawing, you know, like I'm a brilliant programmer, excellent friend, you know, very compassionate person. I also do very good other stuff like cooking, etc. You know, so let me explain what the hell is going on here, okay? So Let's say we have 4 users, and these are 4 users. Each one has a little phone with them, okay? So these are four users, okay? But not every user has the same app installed, okay? So these 2 guys which have this little star, that's my little app, okay? So this is our app that we are talking about, all right? And these 4 users are in same location, okay? But of course we can have other 4 users which are in different location, all right? So far so good. This little thing is a mobile antenna, okay? And yeah, every city has thousands and thousands of them every 500 meters or something, you know, and then each provider has one, and then they keep adding 3G, 4G, 5G, so they keep adding more antennas, so you have all these antennas everywhere in the city, okay? Do you know how does this technology work? No? Okay. Do you know old radios, you know, that you had, you know, big radio and you would turn on and it has antenna and, you know.
The frequency?
Yeah, well, there is frequency, of course there is frequency. But, you know, some guy 150 or more years ago, I don't know, invented radio, okay? And then they are arguing it was he who invented it or some other guy, it doesn't matter, okay? But that invention is still here, okay? This is 2-way radio. So this antenna, this mobile antenna that I'm showing, basically sends a radio signal, just like old radio stations, in all directions, okay? It doesn't choose one direction. It doesn't know where your phone is and sends the signal towards it like directly, some sort of magical beam. No, it just broadcasts it to around wherever it is, okay? Now these signals, so they go in a circle, in spherical, whatever it's called, there's a scientific term for it, but they go everywhere. So basically, every one of these phones receives the signal. Whatever is transmitting, okay, so if you are talking, sending messages, sending push notifications, it doesn't matter, using internet, this one is sending it in all directions, okay? So all the phones and all the users, regarding of which apps they have installed, they receive the data. Yep. Now the thing is, they ignore most of the data because, of course, this would be extremely stupid. If I receive everybody's web page, whatever they are browsing, you know, and so on. Okay, so this mobile antenna says, okay, I'm going to send this web page. Let's say Mernaz, she's browsing BBC website, and at the same time Sam is playing some computer game, so she's sending some data about the game, and you know, you are checking, I don't know, your clothing app or whatever it is, you are checking your football scores, it doesn't matter. So each data is then attached kind of in a little package, encrypted, and then it's encrypted with your phone's ID, okay? So if your phone says, hey, that's my ID, I can decrypt this data and I will just extract this. Even if I heard everybody else's data, I can't access it, all right? So what phones need to do, basically, is every few seconds, they need to send the signal, radio signal themselves. And they are same primitive radio. They send it in all directions, okay? So all these bloody directions, you know, they send the data. They don't know where the antenna is. They just send it, okay? And I hope they will hit one antenna. So they hit one antenna, or two, or three, but then to one antenna says, this is a strong signal, so I know where this user is, and I will deal with this user. 5 seconds later, that sends the same signal, so it can hit the same antenna, and this antenna says, okay, I still know this user is here. But then when you move to the next antenna, you move outside of the building, or next road, next street, then when your phone sends a signal, here I am, some other antenna picks it up. Okay, so basically, we know where you are every single second of where your phone is. Okay, because it keeps broadcasting, here I am, here I am, here I am, here I am, all the time. And it says, here I am, but this is also my phone ID. And then, hey, have you got some shit for me, you know? And then what happens is this guy says, I know that there are 20 or 50 or 100 phones in my vicinity. So your mobile provider, this box here, will only send the data for your game or for your shopping site or for your news articles to the antenna where you last logged in. Hopefully it will find you there if you haven't moved really fast. All clear so far? So it's very stupid technology, you know, it's very primitive. And it's hundreds of years old, of course, you know, but what we have done since then, we just got better in packing more data into this wave that antenna sends. Because before the wave is sinusoid, okay, so like every wave, if you throw a rock in a lake, you got those waves. That's the same thing in air. When this antenna is in air, it creates those waves, concentric or whatever the bloody name is, all around it, okay? Now, if we play with amplitude, so the height of those waves, and modulate it, we can actually encode the signal. So that's AM, amplitude modification. You have all radios used AM. If you change the frequency between the waves, so two waves are shorter, closer to each other, two are further away, then we can represent the closer ones as zeros and the longer ones are ones. So we can play with frequency and encode the data that way. That's FM, again, old radios. But then we can combine the two and add additional things, you know, change the modulation, frequency, amplitude, and so on, so we can pack more data in this signal. But technology is quite dumb, okay? So what happens if I, as a developer, want to send a message to the user, okay? This is what today's lesson and maybe even next one on Thursday will be all about, okay? I want to show you the APIs, how we use APIs, but I want to give you a real example that we can actually use, and I chose extremely complex example to show you the APIs, okay? Why? Because, I don't know. Everybody shows you a very simple example, okay? So we have our server, okay? This is our server. So our server for AIC application discovers there are new articles, okay? We updated the articles. So in that case, we want to send a push message to all our users, every single one of them, to tell them, hey, guess what's new? We have new articles. You can go and download them and do whatever you want, okay? So this is a message type which we typically send when which we want to notify everyone, okay? But we can also target individual user. So if the user suggested something and we want to send a message to that user, your suggestion was accepted, thank you very much, something like that, then we will send a message to that individual user, okay? We know that this happens on the server side. On our server side, we have our backend running, we have the database of our users, we have the database of articles. We know when we update the articles, and now from our server, we want to send a message either to everybody or just individual one specific user, okay? So, but we know the infrastructure is very crazy. So we don't know where these users are every moment. We don't know, do they have iOS or Android? how many different phones they have, do they have our application installed or not. We can't think of all that. And then there's another way. My mobile provider is T-Mobile, but you have Vodafone, you have KPN, you have, I don't know what you have, We might have a different providers as well. And then you might be roaming, you might be in Nigeria, So you're on Nigerian mobile network, okay? So, but the message has to come to you, okay? So I can't program this for every bloody provider phone message, and so that would be crazy, all right? So there are only a few companies which allow us to solve this conundrum, okay? So one of them is Google, okay? So they have this cloud messaging platform, which I can use for free to limited number of messages, but quite enough for AI Seeker. So I don't care where they are. I don't care which phone they have. I don't care, is it Apple or is it Android or is it Microsoft or BlackBerry or something, I don't know. I don't care. So they allow me relatively easily to send the message, okay? So what my server needs to do is just tell FPM, I want to send a message to all my users, or I want to send a message to a specific user, and of course I have to tell them what the message is. So one part of my programming is calling the API of Google, all right, to send the message. And that's the simple part. Well, how does Google know whether to send the message to the first user, second, third, fourth, and all of them? How does it know? Searches for some sort of key. It has to have some sort of key. Okay, there have to be keys. So what happens here is the following. When this first user with our app installs the app for the first time, the app has to register and get a unique key. So how I do that, I basically, on the login, this is where I like to do, okay, but you can do it elsewhere. Okay, you can do it on the first index.js or whatever file you have a first page. But on login, and I'll explain why, I say, aha, you are now logging in and your name is DJ, okay? So I know who the hell you are inside the app. And then I say, register DJ's phone with FPM or whatever it's called. And you get unique identifier from Google on your mobile phone. Once you get that identifier, what I do then is send your login credentials to my server with that key. And remember that key. Because next time when I want to do a push, I say to Google, push this message to that key. All right? So how it works, when you log in on our apps, yes, I check your credentials and stuff like that, but I also register you for the push. Okay? Get your key from Google and then save that in my database so I can use it later. Now, slight problem with Google is these keys expire every now and then. Okay? So let's say if you reinstall the app, delete it and reinstall it, you will get a different key 100%. Okay? You're not going to get the same key. Okay? So That's why I put it on login screen. So every time you log in, I check, is your key still valid, or you get a new one, okay? And then either register it on my backend, on my server, or update it on my server if you got a new key, so you will continue receiving the notifications. Any questions? No?
So that last part, you mean that when someone, so you also store this key, right?
I have to store the key because Google wants me to send the key of the users that the message goes to.
And it's connected to its login credentials.
Well, as I said, it can be at any stage of the app, but I typically put it on the login screen. So every time when you launch the app, when you get to the login, this is where I put it, you know, because I know that you are starting the app, I want to register, and so on. Okay? So I get the key, I register the key, so the server knows your key, so it can tell the Google, send a push notification to this user. Google keeps track of that user's phone, like they do, okay? So they say, fine, this user has a Samsung 10 or iPhone 9 or whatever, I don't care. And it's connected to the Vodafone or T-Mobile or whatever, and okay. So Google talks to Vodafone and says, hey, you know your Vodafone user, you know, Julia, I have a message for her, can I send it to her? Okay, and Vodafone has contract with them and says, no problem, Google, you can send it to it, okay? We are tracking where Julia or Julia is every moment, so we know next to which antenna she's sitting, okay? So we'll send that message to that antenna, and that antenna will broadcast radio signals, so hopefully your phone will be not, you know, buried 3 meters under the ground, so it will pick up the signal. But it will also pick up all the other signals from all the other push notifications, your internet connections, your phone updates, your browsing, whatever you're doing. It picks up all this, because your phone is running 60, 80, 100 apps at the same time. So how do we know that this app is the one which is supposed to receive this message? Okay? Well, the app is registered to allow to receive push notifications. So one of the things that people hate is that if I keep getting messages from providers and which I don't want, okay? So it has to ask me for my permission, first of all. So when I install the app, typically apps ask you for permission. Are you okay to receive push notification or access your phone or contacts or pictures or whatever it is, okay? So one of the things that app, when it's installed, it registers itself, I have to receive push notifications, okay? So it's listed on one of the apps. So all the apps which are receiving push notifications get this notification. But only the app that has your code from the previous step will match the code that Google sends. So all the other apps will say, well, this is not for me. Okay, so only our app will recognize this as messages for me. Okay? And then Google and the phone and the Vodafones and everybody else has done their job. They identify the app and they say, I have a message for you. But now the app has to do two things. It has to deal with the message. Okay? So there are two scenarios. One scenario is app is running and user is currently using, which is called apps is in the foreground. Okay? App can be in the background, so you open it, but you open some other app on top of it, so it's not in the foreground. Or app can be completely closed. Okay? And you all have seen these things happening on your phone. You are looking at the app, and then you get push notification for that app. In that case, you will have a visual prompt, some sort of little cloud message thing, okay, which will say, hey, Andre sent you a new message, or AI Sihan sent you a new message, or Facebook friend sent you a picture or whatever, or liked you, okay? So you have this visual thing inside your app when you are in the foreground to be displayed. But if the app is in the background, we don't display that because nobody will see that visual notification. So what that app has to do is put inside your phone notifications, put a little icon, app, and short message. So you will see it in the list of your notifications. So when you look at your notifications, you have notifications from Facebook, from Messenger, from Skype, and from AIC app. So this is what happens if you receive, but this is not done automatically. Your app has to put it there. Okay? If your app doesn't put it there, it's not going to appear there. When the user clicks on it, in that notification, it has to open your app. However, why would I open the app on the front page of the app where I typically open it? I need to open it and show relevant content, so I have to open it differently. So I have to program that as well, so I go straight into the message conversation and so on. So it's quite complex thing. All clear so far?
Can you use anything else than Google?
Yes. There are other providers as well. For example, if you want to send push notifications to Apple phones, you can use Apple's services. I'm sure that there are many others that have similar but as I said, this one is free, okay, to the certain level, and it's widely supported and it works. So I hate Google and the amount of data they collect. But if I use a company called, I don't know, Twilio, Zilio.io, who the hell are they? And they get the same data. All right?
So if you use Google, you can send notification to people who are using iOS?
You can.
You can?
Yes. It doesn't matter, are they on iPhone, on iPads, on Microsoft phones, BlackBerry phones, any other phones, they cover them all. Okay, so as I said, it's not something which I would send users passwords and PIN numbers and shit like that, okay? So notifications are not very secure. Even if they're encrypted, etc., I can encrypt them end to end, so I can encrypt them on my server and decrypt them on the mobile end. So Google doesn't know what the message is, but they know where you are, which apps you are using, and everything else, so yeah. So if you are using Gaydar.com app and you are receiving lots of messages, it doesn't need, I don't need AI to figure out what your sexual preference is, how popular you are, and or how desperate you are, or whatever not. If I combine that with your payment, which you also do via Google and Google stores and app stores, I can get very good picture of quite a lot of your individual preferences as such. And so can T-Mobiles and all the others. So, yeah. All clear? All right. So let me try to show you some of these things, okay? So what I have here is I started a test React Native app, and according to their documentation, I installed Awesome Project, and this is an empty app which just displays this. Okay? So this has no push notifications, nothing along those lines. Okay? So in theory, this is the one I want to make receive push notifications, and you can receive push notifications on the simulator. Okay, it will work, it will find you, because I don't know, did I delete it or not? Yeah, I didn't. Wi-Fi. So it doesn't have to use T-Mobile, because you can use Wi-Fi and your internet providers as well. Okay, so so that's why it works. It should work on this application as well. All right. So first things first, I'm going to show you not in Awesome app. Okay, I'm going to show you in Animus app and in Slanky app. Okay. Why am I going to show you these two? Because they are, one is React Native and one is Ionic. Okay, so Slanky is React Native, so this is same like AI Siha app, and Ionic is more like your CodeTown app for the CodeTown people, all right? So what I have here is screens, okay, and I have a sign in screen, okay, and here I'm importing messaging from React Native Firebase messaging. Okay, what is Firebase? Well, Firebase is this Firebase Google, what I called FPM. I don't know why I'm calling it FPM, because it is Firebase FB. I'm horrible with this. So Google Services, Firebase, Cloud Messaging, okay? That's the one that I'm using here, okay? Inside the code, go back to code, all right? Inside package.json, I have to import two things. Firebase messaging and Firebase app. Okay, messaging is to receive all the message things. Okay, that's the vendor package, but it kind of relies on Firebase app, because that's the app is like a base of all the Google services that they provide. All right, because I can have multiple other services such as Crashalytics. Okay. This Crashalytics, every time an app crashes, it will send a message to the Google platform that my app crashed. And I, as a user, can then see what happened, why did it crash, I can see the logs. Because how would I access the logs on each one of your phones and know why the app is not running? I will typically install Crashalytics to do that, okay? So all these require app as like base communication to Google Cloud Services, and Google Cloud Services you can see Crashalytics, But you can also look at many other things, okay? Analytics, A/B testing, etc., etc. You know, ads, all that sort of stuff. But one of the things that I want to do is cloud messaging, okay? And when I click on cloud messaging, it's not here. This is one of the horrible things with these very useful but complex platforms is it's impossible to find where stuff is, okay? So here I create a project, okay? And I have a project Slinky, project Animus, and the others that I want to do. And then see, I am putting the type of support that this app will have. So Slinky is going to work on iOS and Android and web. So I can send push notifications to the websites or something similar, or at least do some analytics. Animus is only Android, okay? So when I click on Animus, okay, this is my project and I have various features that I care about, but I care about this cloud messaging, and it's not very useful here. I can only see kind of like report to see how many messages were successful and failed in past week, 90 days, whatever not, okay? But what I do have to set up here is obviously I have to tell Google that I'm going to have an application called Animus, AI whatever not, and so it gets its own ID. So when I send a message to user so and so, application so and so, the Google knows where to send it to. Okay, good so far? So I have to set up something in Google Messaging, okay? And I will show you that one by one, okay? So I imported their packages, all right? And then hopefully in sign in, so as you know, in React Native, everything is bundled together. There are no controller model things. Everything is in one file. So the front end and so on. And this is a handle login. All right. So this is when you click login button on my app, slinky.com. Okay. So see what it does. Okay, so it goes to the API that I created, and we are talking about APIs today. So it's going to call the API of slinky.com, okay, and it's going to send some data, okay, and it's going to send them in a JSON format, okay, so I know what format of the data the API requires. And it's first of all going to send some token. Okay, because tokens are important, so I identify the authenticity of the app. So I don't want other people's app to send the login requests here. Okay, so this is a secret code, which I don't want to show on YouTube, of course, so which only is used by this specific app, and this same code is on the server side, as you will see. Okay, and then I send body of the message, which is email and a password. Okay, so yes?
How do you come up with this token?
I just invent random number.
You can make anything.
Yeah, anything.
As long as it's
Okay.
server, then it works.
No, I just have to have a random generate string. Okay, there are websites you know which random string generator. Okay, so get strings, boom. Okay, so this is generating numbers only, but if I want uppercase and lowercase, I can get them from any websites also, so I don't even have to invent. I just copy. Okay, this is my string, and that's my now secret word.
Yeah.
But it's not this key for Google.
No. This is for my APIs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is for my login API. We are not yet with the push. I'm just slowly explaining little things. Okay, so Because first of all, this user could send the wrong credentials. So if you are DJ and your password is 123 and you type ABC777, I can't register you. I don't know who you are. I'm not going to get token for Google because I don't know who you are. You just enter wrong information, okay? So I'm waiting for the response, okay? And you have to imagine the user is on the phone. He just pushed the button. Okay, he's on a crappy connection, on a crappy old phone with a broken screen, all right? So now this poor phone is sending radio waves in all directions with this information. And then some antennas on some roof pick up your signal, then send it to the mobile provider, which then figures out, oh my God, you are sending it to upsource.com, so they find our server and they send this information to our server. Our server receives a request, and we can check, is this a valid request, and no, and then respond. So we respond saying, yep, it's fine, man, you're okay. So we respond to the network sends it to the mobile antenna sends it to this guy, and this guy maybe receives our response or not. Okay? So if everything is okay, we send a message typically 200. So this code here is waiting for the message. You might wait for a second, 2, 5. You know, there are so many components, okay? So when you hit login on your phone, it's not that responsive, okay, all the time, because there are so many things which are happening, okay? So if the code is 200, great. I just put in a little console. This is for me in a console in a terminal to see what's happening when I'm testing this. So I'm getting some JSON data, okay? So I'm getting JSON as a response. Okay, so I send the JSON, I receive a JSON, but it's a different data. I send your email and password, I receive the user details. Your first name, last name, email, whatever this application needs in order to run, okay? So I get JSON data and I save it as a global variable in this case, so every page can have access to it in my app. And for some reason I have some flag to say you are logged in, so that's my authentication, idiotic thing. So it doesn't check every page, are you logged in? It has value, yes, you are logged in, and you stay logged in until you log out. So even if the app goes in the background, you close it, you are still logged in unless you specifically check do logout, okay? And then it calls this function check permissions, okay? Otherwise, and then save user another function. Otherwise, it will put a console that I didn't receive 200, and it will show a little toast on your little message on your screen, say, error, please try again, something went wrong, whatever that message is, all right? So let's see this check permission. Okay? So this is what I mentioned a little bit. So when you install the app, you have to have the permissions. It will ask you, do you want to allow this app to send notification, to access your contacts, whatever it is, the permissions, okay? So I'm checking the permissions, messaging, okay? And if I have the permission, I will then try to get the token. If I don't have a permission, I will request permission to, so my app says, if you didn't grant me a permission to receive messages, well, I can't receive them. Can you please give me a permission to do that. You can still say no, but the app is not going to work as expected, of course, in that case. So request permission, okay, is simple as that, you know. So it has, if there is an error when they are requesting, like they deny or something like that, see what I'm doing. I am recording the error that I caught on Crash Analytics. So when the user complains, your app doesn't work, well, of course it doesn't work because you keep rejecting permissions to push your notifications. I can see that in my logs. So, messaging request permission. Okay, that goes outside of my app. It doesn't matter if I'm on iOS or Android, it will run the native thing which will say, this app, AIC or whatever, is asking you politely to give it permission so it can send you push notifications, accept, reject, okay? But this is the thing what we were talking about, this get token, okay? So I go to get token, and this is a function get token. Now you will see quite often that mobile functions, even mobile applications, even inside the doesn't matter if they are iOS or Android or React Native or Ionic or anything else or native, they quite often use these async and await and similar functions, okay? Because we don't know how long will it take for the users to get response over these networks, which can be quite slow, okay? So we create a function, async, which is not going to block the UI, so it will be done in the background, so it will start and wait when wherever it receives the token, it receives the token, okay? So user can move on from here, okay? So we are creating functions which are executed not synchronously, not one after another, wait for the result, they are asynchronous. Okay, but I also have to make sure that each function I call that I put in a try-catch block and deal with errors. What if this function doesn't work? It means that I didn't receive the token, so I have to do something with it, okay?
One question. You said that you will catch an error if the user doesn't get permission. What if the user doesn't want to have push notification sent to him?
Well, I have to deal with it.
Yeah, so like you just send them an error every time?
Well, there are applications which say, if you don't want our push notifications, you can't use this app. Delete it. If this is essential to working of the app, for us it's not essential, we can live without that, so we are going to say, okay, fine, don't have them, which is how it should be, you know, give users the option. But sometimes we must have these, and this app that I'm showing you must have it, so doesn't give the option, you know, if you don't want, this is essential for functioning of the app, it really is. Yeah, you can't use the app without enabling this. Now, see this get token, I get in a console log, get token is starting, all right? And I just want to say, you see how many things I log in the console. And because lots of functions are synchronous, so some things can happen earlier and some things can happen later. Okay, and some things can happen in parallel. So in my console, I get like lots of rubbish, as you typically see. Okay, so what I like to do is explain to myself what the hell is going on, so I can find it in. So I first of all put the name of the file I'm in. So I'm in signin.js, so I know this comes from signin.js. Then I put the bloody name of the function that I'm in, and then I put everything else. Okay, so when I read consoles, I actually have useful information. If I just put starting, I don't know who is starting, where is it starting, who started, okay? So I put a little bit extra effort in these console logs, but then they are useful for me, okay? So as you can see, now it's going to API register token. Huh? So it says token is same token, and this says the email, and it says token global FCM token. So this is registering that token from Google. Where is this token coming from? No. This is the Google token, FCM. What did I put here in the FPM? Okay, it's not P, it's C. FPM, I think it's university here in Maastricht. Okay, so FCM token, okay? Let's search the whole mobile app, find and folder, FCM token, okay? So I'm getting the token before they even logged in. All right? So this is app.js in React Native. This is typically the first file which is OpenAI executed, okay? And I have one part of this execution to show the splash screens and shit like that, but then I do asynchronous. I initialize the storage, the local storage of the app, okay? And part of that process is like, you know, yes, I'm initializing the storage, but I also want to get the token. So when I get to the login screen, I already have a token for this device, okay? So what I need to do is then just go back to the sign in. I already have the token, so I can just basically send it to the server to say this user with this email that just logged in, this is his token for the push notification. And I'm waiting for the response, okay? And then I say, okay, what's the JSON code? If 200 is, then sign in JS, get token, response is 200, so I know that I have successfully registered the token with my backend, that I got it from Google, and so on, and then I can use it for the push notifications. If get token is not 200, put a little pop-up saying failed, push registration failed, this is a message, and so on. Catch error. Okay?
What is the other token? The one which is just a string. Is that the application token?
So this is a token which authorizes this application to send the API request to my backend. That's the one that we were talking about, random string, this thing, okay? So I know that this is my application talking to my backend. So that's my identification.
And it's not common that there are two applications using the same token.
I think it doesn't matter if it's because it checks on the server.
You-
It's the same as
Yeah, well, it's extremely unlikely that that's going to happen. If the token is 1, 2, 3, then it's very likely that multiple applications might use the same one. But if it's big hash thing, then it's very unlikely that that's the case. Okay. So this is registering this thing. Let's look at these APIs, okay? So what I'm going to do is open websites, okay? And I'm going to actually show you this on Animus, okay? because as I said, this is another app which does exactly the same thing, but it uses, instead of React Native, it uses Ionic, okay? But the backend is exactly the same, all right? So it doesn't matter which one I'm using, okay? HTTP controllers, API, controller, push controller, okay? So this is probably the controller that I want to care about, but before I go into controller, I can check the routes, web, okay? So manage fields, manage access, test push, okay? So this is some push, test whether, this or that. Authentication APIs, it's not this one. Don't know where it is. Aha, actions, push token, username, okay. So it's guest API. Now let me look at guest API. Don't know where it is, but I'm trying to see anything to do with push, okay. Which one was it? API, guest API. So I showed you this before, okay? So sensor data, that has nothing to do with this thing, home. Aha. So here's the interesting one. Notify, login. Don't care about farms or fields, get actions, post actions, push token. So the push token, I think is this one, okay? So when the user has logged in, okay, before it's doing any other things, this is the one that we called from the mobile app, okay? So it has, in this case, username. In the app that I was showing, it had the email, okay? It doesn't matter, all right? And then it has that FPM token that we got, all right? So see what I said is, find me the user with this username, okay? In the other app that I was showing you before, it was sending email, so I could say find me the user with that email, okay? So it finds the user, okay, with that email, and then assigns this token, this FCN, whatever it's called, the Google token, assigns it to the user thing, remember token in my table, and then saves the user, and then responds 200. Otherwise, if the something is wrong, it sends the code, in this case 407, okay, which 407 should be defined here. 407, error updating user, which seems legit, okay? So storing this authorization token from Google and calling the API is extremely simple, okay? It's not this login, it's push token, okay? This is that secret code, this is that other token for this app, okay? So each app has that as an app token, so it identifies that, you know, and it checks what it sent. If these things match, brilliant, you're fine, you're my app, I'll allow you. If they don't match, I will return response, which in this case is one of these token not valid 404. That's the one which it will return. Good so far? Okay. So if I look at the database, okay, my admin utilities database, okay. Let's see what I have here. Okay, so let's say Animus, okay, and users. Okay, so these are some users, and then here's the remember token. Okay, so these two users and this one here are the users who actually opened the mobile app, logged in, and then got the token from Google, which was then saved in my database. So I know that user Eddie, this is his token from Google. And if I want to send a message to Eddie, I use this token. Okay? If I want to send a message to Jasper, was it Jasper? Yeah, I use this token. Yes?
Do you update the token every time the user logs in from a different device? So for example, I have two phones.
Yeah, I update the token on login. Yeah. But if you log in with one phone, I'll get that device. If you log in on the other one, then you will get messages over there. I didn't, in this app, I didn't assume users will have two, so I have to send you two push messages to both of your devices, which is typically what I could have done if I was thinking that's the case. Because lots of people have tablet and a phone and so on, so they want to receive the message on all their devices. In that case, I will have slightly complex database with multiple tokens saved per one user. Okay? So, inside of this Animus application, I have a very simple push page, okay? So it allows me to basically send a simple push notifications as a test push notification. So this is quite useful. So I select the user from the drop-down. Obviously, Andre doesn't have a push token because he didn't register his app, but Eddie does, okay? And then I can say what type of notification I want to send to this person. Why is type important? Because my app can handle different types differently. So if it's info, okay, I don't have to do anything else. But if it's a warning, it might make a sound or buzz or something like that. So it can do, a more, drastic kind of notification than a normal one. Title is what you see on top of your push notifications. Body is what is inside. And I can attach some data if I want to, so I can send you some codes and stuff like that, whatever the data is that I'm pushing. So I can push you today's weather information, temperature, whatever it is, okay? So with this little thing, this is a simple form I created, so I can just fill it in and click push, and then it will call this other function, which is, I think it's this one, push token. No, it's this one above, okay? Notify, okay? So it says user ID and message. Maybe it's this one, maybe it's not this one, I'm not sure. Let me have a quick look just to make sure I'm getting the right one, okay? So web, okay? So this is a test push, is a push controller, push execute. So that's wasn't the right one, so I will find push controller and push execute, okay? So from this form, I'm getting users ID, type, title, body, data. I'm getting the token from the database, okay? And this is my API access to the Google's FCM, to the Google Cloud Messaging platform, okay? This is what I get when I go to this page and go here and add a new project. I get my API key, which identifies which one of my apps is supposed to receive this message, okay? So, going back to my code. So, Google's notification documentation tells me I need to put this in a certain format. So I'm creating this format based on their documentation. They want to have a message with a title, body, do I vibrate, what sound do I play, etc. What feels like it's a notification to user token, okay? And then I have to put the data that I'm sending to them. Inside the headers of my request, I have to put this access key, this one, okay? So with one call, I send them everything about what message I want to send, okay? And then in PHP, typically we use curl, so we set up the parameters, and then we say curl execute. So this makes the call to the Google, sends all this information, and then I check, did Google reply with any error? If I have error, I show on my test screen that I just show you here a little error. It went wrong, and what I do, because this is a test page, I actually put the error inside the notification so I can see straight on my screen. Or if it went correctly, I say it's done and put the result, whatever Google sent me as result. This is typically fire and forget. Because I don't know has message been delivered, opened, read, or anything like that. I just told Google send a message to that user. If the user is dead, I don't know. Did they drop their phone? I don't know. This is fire and forget. I send the message, I'm done. Google says I received the message, I'll see what I can do. So what they will typically do if the message fails, they will maybe resend a few times. Depends on the service, depends on various things. So for me to send a message from the mobile, from the website, okay, I can do as simple as that. So I showed you how I register, and I showed you how I call the API in order to send this message. Now what this is missing is try catch. Because every time when I call external APIs, I need to put some sort of try catch around this to handle this. But because this is my test page, I don't put try catch on my test page. Because what I want to do, if this code doesn't work, I want to break it and show me that error message screen. Because I'm a developer. So because of this is my test page, I don't want try catch. But if I'm doing this for any user for production, of course I'm going to put try catch and then handle any errors and show users, oh, your push message couldn't go away this time, please try again later, blah, 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 whatever, so they don't get nasty things. File. Open recent mobile development, okay? So where do I receive these messages? So my app, this is that app.js in my Slinky app, okay? Here, as you can see, I am using messaging, all right? Create notification listener. Let me see, where is that? Okay, so initialize MKV storage, let me see where is that as well. Okay, so I'll just want to show you so you understand. Yeah. Initialize MKV storage, who is calling this? Okay, it's in render for some reason. So the app starts, and then it has this render function in React Native which draws the screen. Okay, this typically would draw a splash screen. Okay, and during the splash screen in the apps, we do initial things which take 3, 4, 5, 10 seconds. So you have the splash screen for a while we are initializing the app. So what I'm doing when the rendering starts, okay, then I say, hey, or is it ready? So when render is completed, okay, so when I get the splash screen, I start doing all the various stuff, okay? So I, in this case, initialize the storage, okay? Part of this initializing the storage, where that function is, okay, is async. It will take some time, okay? And that's what I explained. I am getting token, okay, and it's going to wait till it gets it here. But before that, of course, it's going to see is the user logged in and did they have previous passwords and stuff like that, okay? After I get the token, I say create notification listener, okay? So this is part of my initialization of the app, okay? We didn't get to the login page yet, but I'm initializing listener, okay? So see, I'm in app.js, create notification listener, and then I say messaging. On message, when you receive remote message, display notification, title, body, okay? So basically what this does is when my app is installed and when the guy runs it for the first time, the user, on the splash screen, so initially it will get the token, and after that it will register up with the phone that this is one of those apps which receive the mobile notifications, okay? And when it receives the mobile notifications, it will call this specific function. Display notification, okay? So where is this function? Toast show notification. This is that thing if I am in the foreground, of course. So I register at the start of the application, say, if you get ever a message for me, call this function. So the phone knows that the moment it gets the message, and it is for this application, and the user and all that matched what I described before, then it's going to call this function, and this function will just say toast, little pop-up, show me, okay, show me body and the title of this message. Any questions?
Can you send notifications to a user who's not logged in? So I logged in, but then I logged out.
Yes.
Do you still receive notifications?
Yes. As long as your token is still valid and it's in my database, I can still send it to you even if you are not logged in inside the app. Logged in is very convenient for me to match the token to you. But let's say I have an app with no users, no logged in. No users whatsoever, okay? But every user who uses the app will get the token. And I just store it in a database tokens. And I say to all those tokens, send a message. I don't care who they are my users of the app. Okay, so they will all receive push notifications. Even if you never enter your email and name and password or anything like that, you will still receive it. Login is optional. But for me, it's very convenient because once Andre logs in and I want to send a message specifically to Andre, I can.
But what if you also want to send general messages, so not only the personal ones? And
I just use a different structure of the call to the Google APIs that says, well, these are all my users, send a message to all of them. Okay, so it's just a different structure. All right, so there is more, of course, much more. This is just a very short overview of how this works, because there's many more things to set up, such as little icons which appear when you are sending message, such as sound, such as stuff like that. You know, there's lots of things that I can set up in order to get this running, and I will do that. You know, I think we also have another lesson about this. You know, so I will do that in this test app that I'm creating. So I will create a little push notifications for the test app, which is this one here. So hopefully this one will be able to display these notifications. So when I send it from here, this one receives it there. Okay, but I'm not going to do that right now. Right now we are going to have a little break, 3-4 minutes. And after the break, I'm going to talk more about API specifically. Okay, this was very good use case where I'm using lots of APIs. So mobile calls this calls that calls that, you know, so it's quite going around. But actually I want to talk about AppSource APIs specifically because some of you need it for some tasks and I want to explain that. But that's after the break, so 5-minute break and then 40 minutes on AppSource APIs and then we are done for today. Okay. Hello. Okay, guys in the chat, you understand push perfectly because you have no questions. So, you know, I don't think I need to invite you for questions, but please, if you have any, do type them in the chat so we can answer them at some point. But now what I want to show you guys is AppSource APIs, all right? And we've seen some of that, but I just want to structure it a little bit more, okay? So we've seen the use case of lots of these APIs, but I would say that we have internal APIs and external ones. And those external APIs can be a little bit external, a little bit more external, or very, very external, okay? So I'll show you a little bit of a difference, okay? So let's go back to the scene, okay? And let's go to the APIs, okay? And this is a mobile development, so I need to open my website development, all right? So I'll close all this. All right. So typically, websites have one purpose. Okay? So your website will have one purpose and will have one web application installed. All right? And let's say very typically we have WordPress installed, so it shows you some blogs and posts and pictures and so on. That's one web application. Okay? Now, AppSource doesn't work like that because you can have any application, including WordPress, but not necessarily installed on it. Okay, it depends on each customer. So every server is same but different. What is the same on each server is this MyAdmin. Okay, this is on every server. This is the key one, and all the others. AIC, Harimus, Blender, etc., my files, my projects, my documentation are optional. Okay? Now, typically, all these apps work on their own. They don't work as a group. So the whole idea behind AppSource is make these apps work as a group. So on the same server, we have multiple apps with multiple purposes, using the same database, so the data we are storing is not, first of all, duplicated, so I don't have to register my name for each one of these services. They look the same, they feel the same, so I can easily figure out how to work from one app to another. They are the same language, you know, so they are kind of unified as such. In order for me to do that, I have to share some information between the apps, which are typically made to be standalone apps, okay? So what I had to do is modify these apps in order to work together. But they don't work together. Animus app doesn't work with Blender app. They don't know each other at all. So they all work with MyAdmin as such. And MyAdmin provides internal APIs which are used internally on the same server for these apps to communicate, exchange the data. Okay? That's the idea. So, if Animus app, it's very easy. If I look for AppSource in any of these apps, I will find typically these things like AppSource response, okay? So, this is me calling AppSource internal APIs. Let me show you what those APIs I have. Okay, so I'll leave this one open for a second, but this is from Animus. Each app can have its own, whatever it needs, all right? So, app, HTTP, controllers, APIs, okay? So let's say environment APIs. So this is an API which gets environment. Basically, it gets the database credentials. When you install these apps, each one has to be set up, and this is very complex for normal users who don't understand how databases work. Okay? So we don't want them to be set up. We want to, when you install the app on your system, it works automatically. Okay? Because they are using the same database, I don't want to set up the database credentials for each one of these apps. So basically what each app says, hey, I want to connect to the database. What is the username, password, and the database table that I need to connect to? Okay? Well, my admin is already connected to the database using the credentials. So I don't need to define this in every other app. I can just say, give me those credentials to connect to the database, okay? I can also say, give me who is the logged in user. So whoever logged into my admin is the authorized user, so I can say, get me that user. Who is the user of this website? Is it Julia who is logged in, or DJ, or whoever it is? I want to know who is the logged in user. So the app might need to find out who is the logged in user. But I also want to have the same look and feel. So the apps can say, give me that left bar with the menus. Give me the top bar. Give me the bottom bar. Give me, so I have the APIs for that, all right? So APIs which include the files are this one, include APIs. Okay, so this is for the graphics, all right? So let me show you how this works, okay? This is Animus application, okay? An Animus application wants to know what is its user, okay? My admin has a file called helper.php, okay? So helper.php comes with two functions, call AppSource API and call AppSource post API, okay? Oh, it has three functions, but that's for something else, okay? So when I go to guest API, I say get this helper file, which I just showed you. When I included, basically in my code, I get these two functions included, so I can use them, all right? Because as you can see, writing an API and calling the API is very complex, okay? So you need to figure out what's your protocol, you need a secret code, you need all these curl settings set up properly and so on. So for me, this was very hard, and things can go wrong, so you have to manage the data. So what I wanted for my developers and users, I wanted to make life easy. So you just call the AppSource API, your function, and you pass two parameters, okay? So the first one is the app ID, all right? So this is in order to check, is this app installed on this system? So does this app have a right to access this API, okay? And the second parameter is what the hell you want, okay? So in this case, it's checking username and password, okay? But it might say, give me the top bar, it might say, give me anything else. So if I go here, I will say login controller is get me the user. So get call AppSource API, get me the user. Inside of let's see, did I miss it? Helpers. This is the user. Okay. Somewhere I have also a calling for the graphics. Okay, I'll show you that. I can't find it in this one. 1 second. User dashboard, plan details. No idea why I couldn't find it here. Doesn't matter. I'll find it in some other. So, this is just to make life easier. All right. So I just say app, and what do I want? I want to check password, and I pass username, password in here. Okay. And then I get a response, which I store in a variable, and response is an array of always 3 pieces of information. So it always gives you the code, which is these numbers 200, which means okay, 400, which means something is wrong, but there is a different number for each one of variants what went wrong. It gives you the message, which is a textual message of the error, okay? And then it gives you the data, so the actual thing what you wanted, okay? So in this case, I'm verifying username and password. So when I pass the username and password to this API, it will check it and then return is it correct or not. All right. So let me just find this graphics one. Okay, so maybe Animus is not even using it. My venue. Okay. Language, that's fine. Menu items, okay. How many menu items do you have? Yep, that's the one, okay. So this is some other app. So this app is doing quite a lot of things in its, okay, so it includes the helper. You only need to include the helper once. You can call after that multiple times the APIs. So see, the first thing that it gets, it says, give me the user, okay? So this calls the my admin, and if everything is fine, it will get all the user data, whoever is logged in at the time, all right? So Andre, Fabrice, AF, email, phone number, everything about me, okay? So then it's trying to figure out, okay, what's the language? Because me as a user might have chosen a different language, okay? So I might speak English or Dutch or whatever, no? So it's one of the things that, yes, my admin knows which language you speak, but this app doesn't know what language you speak, and I want all the apps to be in the same language. So from the data that it received from the user, it checks what's its language. And this language can be English, French, yes?
Is this code language equals language do anything?
Sorry?
That place where you have the mouse, language equals language. After you check the F statement, does the code do anything?
No. It's idiotic. Yeah, it's silly, it's unnecessary, it doesn't change anything. So you say assign the value of language to the variable language which already has that value, so you're just assigning itself. So if this language was French, it will assign French to, but it knows it's French already, so it doesn't do anything. But what she wanted to do here, this is Esther, she actually wanted to do something intelligent, which it is, okay, it's either user's language or system language, which is set up on your computer, or if none of those is set up, then display it in English, Okay, so this app either says whatever you set up or whatever your computer set up or English. And then it has these menu items in different languages, which is fine, and then defines the menu. So this is the menu for this app. Okay, so this is the whole thing. It just keeps adding menu items with the link and description and the name and so on. Okay. And then what I do is I create from this menu, I create one string. Because APIs hate objects. You can't send an object through the API. Okay? So you either have to make it into JSON and then decode JSON, or you can do this, what I'm here doing here, serializing it and then encoding it, okay? So see, this is much better because JSON I can read. So everything which goes through all those data points and, everybody can read JSON. But if I encrypt my data, then nobody can read it, okay? And I can decrypt it on the other end. That's what I mentioned, all right? So I just serialize everything in one string and then encode the string. And the other side, the server, in this case my admin, will decode that and know what the hell it is, okay? And it's using base 64, so it's 64 whatever, I don't care, all right? So what it does here, okay, so have a look at this, all right? So I'm calling AppSource API, and I'm putting the app ID, okay, whatever the app ID of this app is, so authorize the app. And it says, I want to include head. Give me the head. The head is the file with all the CSS stuff. So I get all the CSS from my admin inside this app. And this gets it in HTML format, so I can just echo head wherever I need CSS, and boom, it's done. Okay? After that, I check, okay, because you never ever trust APIs. So if this head is not defined, then I throw an error. And I redirect the user, say you can't log in, you are not, something is went wrong, and so on. So I can check straight away if the APIs are not working. Then I get the top bar, okay. However, I'm not calling AppSource API, I'm calling AppSource Post API. Because I said there are two functions, post and no post. Post means I will send you some data. Without post, I just want data, okay? So the data I'm sending is string. String is my whole menu. This whole thing above here is one string, which is encoded, whole thing above, one string. So this is my whole menu, okay? I passed it, okay? So I'm giving it a string for the left bar. So what it's going to do is going to generate that left bar where all the menus of all the apps are, including my app that I'm doing, okay? And it will receive, as a result, HTML code, which I just print, echo HTML. It will show me all the divs, all the stuff in perfect format. So it will look exactly the same like on any other page.
The API does that?
Hmm?
The API does that?
Yeah, my API, which I just called, does that. So it's the same API called include menu top bar, include scripts, okay?
It knows by itself which part of the string to take.
Yeah. So it doesn't know. I had to program that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You programmed it to know.
Yeah, but for your apps, if you want to quickly get all the CSS, all the JavaScripts, all the left bars, top bars, menus, okay? This is what you do. You just make few calls and you get the HTML ready. So you just need to echo top bar, boom, you get the top bar displayed on any page. So this is how all the apps look and feel the same, because they just call the same API, they got the same data, and they always have the same top bar, which I define in one place. I don't care how many apps I installed, what apps I installed, they call the API, boom, they get what they need.
So it's connected to Laravel features or not?
Well, this, my admin is using Laravel, but this is not Laravel's exclusive thing, because I'm using PHP in this case, but I could have used anything else. I'm using curl behind the scenes to send the data. So this app, which is on the same server, says, hey, I want to show the same look and feel, calls 3 APIs, header, footer, left bar, top bar, okay? And boom, it gets all the HTML it needs, so the app doesn't have to worry about it. Okay, so what this app does later on inside your so this my venue. My venue is not it's Laravel, but it's modified Laravel. It's some sort of so somewhere it will just have a layout, okay? See layouts, default layouts, and it will print out footer, it will print out head, and these are in partials, and head will be our head from wherever it comes from, I don't know, okay? Each app completely different, all right? But we don't care about that too much. We just want to talk about APIs. But I just want to show you, before I go further into details, I want to show you what happens, all right? So let's say which one I wanted. The one which checks login user, okay? So this is the API. So this AppSource function is inside the helper, call AppSource API. It takes 2 parameters, app ID, and what is the call that you are making, okay? And that call, it will create a URL. So these are what I call internal APIs. So every one of them will be internal. It has app ID, it has a call, and then it has a token, which is this identifier token for the internal APIs. Okay? So what happens in my admin when this call is made? Well, of course, I go to the roots, web roots, and I look for the internal ones. So if you submitted to me app ID and user, which is what I just looked, then I'm going to call API, user APIs get user function. So this works just like CRUD, because it is CRUD. Create, read, update, delete, it's the same thing, it just doesn't have the views. This is done server to server, so one part of the code gets the data from the other part of the code. I don't need to display anything yet, okay? So, my admin app, HTTP, controllers, user controller, get user, that's it, okay? So I pass request an app ID, okay? And this is what I do. I want to verify that everything is all right with this API call before I give sensitive user data to whoever asks for it. So first I check for authorization. Then I check the app, then I check the access, then I check the token. Before I even go to look who the user is. Okay? Check authorization. Okay, so my APIs, here, down here, blah, blah, blah. So this is checking, is the user logged in? If user is not logged in, I'm not giving them access to their own data, okay? So if authorization check function passes, I'm going to return OK, and I will continue with my checks. If it's not, my API is going to send immediately code 402, which I define here, 402, user is not logged in. Okay, so your app, whichever app you are developing, AI Siha or Helped or whatever, will get 402 every time if you try to access the API if the user is not logged in. Okay, so then it checks the app ID. So is this app installed on my system? Okay, so if you don't have the app, the correct app code set up on this app source, it's not going to work. So the app has to authenticate itself with its unique code, okay? Then it checks access. So yes, you are logged in as a user. Yes, the app is installed on your system, but does this user have right to access that app? Because maybe I have 500 users, but only administrators can access this app that I'm using as example, my venue, okay? Only administrators can see that, not normal users. So if the user has access to this app, then it will pass this step. And then the last thing is I also check the token. So I check is the app calling the correct API with the correct token. So if all this passes, then I'm going to give this information back to it. So what I get here is get authorized user. I decrypt their email password. I get their language, okay? And then I put the response, okay? Code is 200, message is all fine, and the data is user. And return response to whoever asked for it. So this response is returned, and it's returned to this helper file, so which is still part of my admin, okay? So, and it says, okay, response is JSON. So this calls the API. If there is no error, decodes the response and returns the response to whoever called it. In this case, it was this guy here. So it gets response, which is my user data. And of course, if there was an error with it, it will give it either 500 or something if there is other error than we didn't take care of. So the response can be 404. It can be user not found, user not logged in. That's a valid response. So all of these will respond, 200, 400, 500, and so on. But if this code failed, then I will get code API call failed message. So if everything went well in this one, okay, it will have app source response, which will have, as I say, always 3 pieces of information: data, code, and message. And the data is basically my user, so it has username, first name, last name, email, language, theme, what they chose, etc., etc. Any questions? Now, if you want to have a top bar, left bar, and other bars in your app, okay? And even if you are using old Medtronic. Okay, so this is my user in the top bar. Okay, so this is Andre. And if I use my Waxy, in the top bar I have the same user. Okay, so the top bar will work only if the user is logged in. If the user is not logged in, then it will, I can't render this top bar. If the user is not logged in, I can't render the left bar because I don't know what apps that user has or what menu options I'm going to put here. All right? I can't render that. I can't render even probably the stuff in the middle because it says welcome Andre and so on, you know. So for many things, user needs to be logged in. And if you are writing a part of the application where user is not logged in and you call these APIs, it's not going to work, such as login controllers and register controllers. So we already have those, but AIC Hub might have its own login and registration forms. But this means that those pages, login and registration page, cannot call AppSource APIs because they will get rejected every single time because AppSource APIs only work for internal apps for the users who are logged in, where the app is installed properly and registered properly, and that user has access to that app. So you can't use it for the guest pages. It makes no sense to use it for the guest pages. And guest pages are pages like terms and conditions. Okay? So I don't have to be registered to see terms, conditions, privacy policy, login page, register page, forget password page. Those are the pages on typical website where I don't have to be registered to see them. Okay? So those pages are different than the others because A, they can't use our APIs, and B, I don't have to be logged in to see them. Okay? So just keep that in mind, that if you are using one of these pages, you're probably not logged in. If you are logged in, you can still access them, but then, you know, why would you access login page if you are already logged in? Sometimes it doesn't make sense. So what we do have inside the AppSource is a guest controller. Okay? So let me show you in my admin HTTP controllers. Okay, I have a guest controller. All right, and I have some functions and I have some routes, user routes, which call this guest controller. Okay, so if I go to the routes, web routes, and I look for guest, okay, so you see, like errors, issues, terms, and so on. These are all part of my guest controller. I don't have to be logged in to see these pages. But none of these functions will call AppSource APIs. Okay? Because they just don't work. Any questions about that? So, very internal APIs, very internal, are the apps on the same server. Okay? If you are developing Angular app or Vue.js or something like that, JavaScript-based pages, okay? What you do is you have a JavaScript which renders the whole page and does the kind of get the data itself. So once it draws the whole page, then it calls typically Ajax calls, so calls APIs to say, give me the data that I want to display in this chart, give me the data that goes in this table, give me the data that goes here, okay? So it's a different logic of the app. In our standard logic, we have a controller which says, get all the data, open the view and pass the data to the view. In Angular, Vue.js, and all these others, is the other way. We draw the view using JavaScript, and then the JavaScript says, hey, give me the data afterwards. Okay? Just different approach. For that, we would use internal APIs, because the page and the server and the database is all internally connected. Okay? If I have a mobile application, it's also my mobile application. I developed it, but it's not on the same server. It's on a mobile phone. So it does call internal APIs, but they are different internal APIs. They are actually external APIs. They're coming from not the server, okay? So I have to treat them differently. But they are still mine. It's still part of my world, okay? So I have the full control of the token to verify that this is the who you say you are and so on, okay? Because I can put the same controller in my, as you saw, Slinky app and these apps, so I put the same token, which is fine. But then I have external one, because if I provide it to other developers who might use it in the future for whatever apps they are developing, okay, then I would have to generate a token for each one of them, store it to the database, and verify those tokens as external developers. So AppsForce in controllers, API controllers, front APIs. Okay, this is very silly. If I go to appsforce.org real website, okay, and I log in and register, I can actually see all my AppsForce instances. That I own. And I can control them remotely. So I can say, hey, why don't you install on that instance this app? So if I go to appsforce.org, as I say, and let me log in as administrator, I can see all my AppsForce instances, okay? So even Alibaba, you know, the one that we are talking about, is my AppsForce instance, okay? And I can see its current status, APIs, and so on, and I can go to that one and see what the hell apps I install. And I can add the application, okay, and I can choose application which I want to add, such as my to-do application or support or Wikipedia or blog, WordPress or e-commerce, whatever I want. And if I click install, it asks me which one of these AppsForces I want to install this. And if I select, I don't know, PhysiHorse, I click install, this one will actually install that whole application like WordPress or my projects or whatever I selected to that remote AppsForce. And it takes 30 seconds. And of course it does it in the background, so I don't have to wait till it's done. Okay, how does it do that? Because this appsforce.org is one website which calls the API on that one, identify itself as Super AppsForce, and say, you know what, I have some external APIs, I want you to install the apps that I just told you. So this is this function install, which is on every AppsForce, which if I access from this mega AppsForce, okay, basically is decoding the information, of course, because it's encrypted, and then gets the Git and clones the repository. It actually does the Git clone. There. Okay? So instead of developer, I have to go to the website, log in through the SSH. We made it so simple for the user, so they just click install just like on their phone, but it's even better because you don't have to be on your phone, you can do it completely remotely. So once it's installed it, finds the database and imports the database. It creates the SQL configuration and imports the database for you. Okay, and then registers everything else, and of course creates the environment and sets up a few things and so on. Registers the app to the list, and it's done. And I can, of course, delete the applications. Okay, but these are external, but they are internal, but they are, you know. So I have different levels of these APIs that I can call in these things. So they do exist here, and they have different authentications methods. You can have a two-step authentication, you know, so you send the initial token and then you verify that, you send them the response and they send you. You can do it, you know, security multiple ways. But I just want to keep it relatively simple and give you the overview, okay? So if you ever inside your app need to have any information from AppsForce itself, such as give me users, give me a connection to the database, give me email settings, so I want to set the email, give me the theme, the language, you know, all that sort of stuff. That is one call away. So you just say, give me that, boom, you get response, just like you are inside that app. Any questions?
You will have different APIs for phone?
AppSource, my admin, doesn't have any APIs for the phone. Okay? So if I have an application like Slinky, like AI Siha, and so on, they build their own APIs for the phone for that app. Okay? Because they are the only ones which know which app is connected to them. Okay? So when we have AI Siha app, it talks to the simple as. But we still need APIs to say login, password, verify that, who is the user, okay, what is your suggested translation, you know, submit that. So those are the APIs that we are using, typically. Well, we'll have the API, the AI Siha, get me the whole database of all translations. We'll have that API.
Can you access all the data of the user using their key? So all the data which is in their application, because if you can install applications on their side, then you can just use the key to get all the data from them, no?
Well, if I wrote the API like that, yes. But I only have install and delete app, okay, from this external one, okay, as you can see here. Install, delete, and update, but update, this is just to update if your app is, has a newer version, so it's basically the same, it's just git pull doing, okay. That's it. Okay, I don't have a function, I didn't write one. I can, if I wanted to access all the data. But each AppSource instance connects to the main one to check your license. Okay, so every time when you click grant application, okay, every time you say grant application, it checks the license. Do you have free version of AppSource, or are you paying us? And if you are not, I am not going to grant you the usage, except if your domain has a word AppSource in it, then it just gives you all the rights. So if you are using appsource.com as your local, you can keep granting a million times, it will always give you the thing. So that's the exception that we built, so for the development purposes, you are not limited to anything. But if your website is slinky.com, then it checks your license, and if you don't have enough seats or whatever we are checking, then it says, hey, why don't you go to our shop here and purchase this app. So you want e-com, it's fine, it's free. But you can pay £10, £20, whatever you want, if you want to have many users. These are not end users, by the way, these are administrator users. Hmm? No, administrator users.
Oh, okay.
So if you want AppSource e-commerce on your website, okay, and you and your friend are running this website, you can run it for free forever. But if you grow very big and you hire 20 people to manage your website, you need 20 administrators of the website, then you have to pay us the license fee, okay? Which is like 10 euros or 10 pounds or something like that, so it's not a lot, all right? So we can use it for free forever if you want to, if you're a very small company. If you are not, then pay us a little bit of money.
And with clone function, you can just clone anything on someone else's computer. Or
Yeah, yeah.
phone. Okay.
And because this is all built on open source, everything is open source. You can clone it, that's not a problem. We're not hiding our code to say you can't clone it. Clone it, that's fine. But when you keep adding new users, then we say, hold on, you know, after a certain level of users, we would like you to pay us. But this is not the users of the web shop. You can have 5 million customers, that doesn't limit them. If there are 2 of you administrating that, fine. 3, fine. 5, fine. Above the fine, 5 for this app, pay us 10 euros a month, and then that's fine. But if you have 20 employees, I'm sure that you can then afford 10 euros a month.
And how does it check the URL of the site that you're cloning from? So can I just put some?
No, you can clone it. It doesn't matter who you are. So all these cloning links that we put on YouTube, anyone can clone it.
No, I mean, can I just put some random URL or a wrong project there?
What do you mean, can you put random URL?
So if I just go to GitHub and instead of using AppSource Git, I use something else.
Yeah, if it's open source, you can clone anything.
Yeah, but how does it check that?
It doesn't. You can clone whatever you want to clone.
Okay.
So all the code that we developed, you can clone, no problem.
But on what is this code running? Because does the phone have Git to clone it, or how is that possible?
Sorry, how is it what's possible?
That you do Git clone. If I want to clone a project on a new computer, it gives me errors because I don't have Git, right?
Well, you just install Git client. Yes, you need Git client to clone.
So if they don't have Git, then they can't clone them.
Yeah, but Git is free. You can download it in 3 seconds, and you can clone. Yeah, you know, as I say, we are not hiding what we are our code. That's not the point. Everybody can clone it, and everybody can use it, and everybody can use it for free forever if they want. It's their server. They can access all their data. They can change their code. We can program the code differently if you want to. You know, on any app source, Alpha app source, I go to my admin, utilities, files, find the line of code in my admin that is available to every administrator user, and I go to whatever file roots and web roots, wherever it is. Here it is, the same one, and I can edit this and change it, add my own functionality. I don't even have to have a programming machine or something like that, so I can change the code on a live server. So you can program on a live server if you want to. Not recommended, you can. You have access to database, you can create a database, you have access to the console, so you can do the console stuff. So everything that we are talking about this is available in AppSource straight away. So here's your web console, LSLA, stuff like that, boom. So when you clone AppSource, this is all you get. You can use it for free. Apache is free, MySQL is free, all is free. Okay, so small companies, startups, all these new businesses, freelancers, whoever it is, who doesn't want to use bloody Google's, you know, G Drive and all that crap and then have everything spied upon. This one doesn't report anything to anyone. There's no analytics. It's your data on your server, which you can run on a basement or Raspberry Pi, or it doesn't matter what you are running it on. Okay. However, when you keep granting, it has a limit on grant. That's the only function which calls the main app source and says, well, who are these people? Why they want 20 licenses of e-commerce? Then pay us some money. You can still cheat, because it has 20 users or 10 users, whatever limit at the same time. So if there are 5 of you and I want 6th one, so I can disable Mernaz for the time being and enable, I don't know, more, and then disable more, enable Sam, you know, so I can cheat around. You know. I don't care. You know, so you can always have it for free forever. You can share the account. Why don't you all have one account and not limiting? But anyway, enough advertising of .com. Guys, I hope this was useful. If you have a headache, burritos, as I mentioned at the beginning, you know, get a new job. You look like a good delivery driver, you know, so you will, you know, with that smile, you will get lots of tips. So I know some of your tasks include the API's calls, okay? Especially the guys who are logging in and registering and so on. Okay, so they got stuck a bit because they didn't know these things. Some of your tasks have push notifications. I hope this clarified it. We'll go into more details a little bit later how to actually do it. You know, so you will be able to push notifications to do some push at least, or understand how it works. So yeah, we'll keep going. Thank you very much. Have a lovely time. Bye-bye.